Welcome back, everyone. We're Simply Bitcoin. We break down the news from Twitter, the daily fail, meme review, software releases, hardware releases, and the websites by plebs. Joining us today, we've got fellow Bitcoiner, the first person to implement Lightning. I'm talking about Rusty. Rusty, thanks for joining us. But first, we are diving into the numbers.
Number time! Brought to you by Bitcoin 2022. It's going to be the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. Get your tickets quickly. The price goes up in 7 days. The speaker list is awesome. Naeem Bukele, Michael Saylor, Saifedean, Adam Back, Jack Mahlers. It's absolutely bonkers. And good news, you can take advantage of the link down below for 10% off your tickets to the best Bitcoin conference in the world, Bitcoin 2022.
At the time of this recording, the block height is 722,823. The Bitcoin price, 42,520. Chain rewrite days, 740. Total public Lightning capacity, 3,440.66. Moscow time, 23:52. Blocks to the halvening, 117,177. And the unspent Samurai Whirlpool capacity, 4,389.97. And as you all know, it's the new metric that we've added. The Samurai Whirlpool is a coin mixing service. Nico, the numbers.
The numbers, and for anyone who's wondering how much 4,389 Bitcoin is in the Kaka fiat price, that's about $190 million off the top of my head, plus or minus. And again, I'm going to say the same thing that I said yesterday. I want that Lightning Network capacity to surpass the Whirlpool. That's crazy that there's more funds in the Whirlpool thing than there is in the Lightning Network. That needs to change.
You are so wrong. So wrong.
No. Why am I wrong?
The Lightning Network,
beat me up. Beat me up. Beat me up. Go. Why am I wrong?
So the Lightning Network is for small payments. That's the amount of money people have got hanging around in their wallets. Like this is like stuff, coins behind the couch. This is like that. That's that kind of money.
Whereas, fair enough. Fair enough.
Mixing is for serious money.
Fair enough. Correct. I agree with you. But if Bitcoin is to become the global reserve currency, think about it. That's millions, if not billions of people having those tiny little transactions. So that is going to have to go up eventually.
Yeah, to some extent, but like the money serves multiple purposes there, right? Because I send you some, you send Phil some, he sends it back to me. Like it moves around, right? So the capacity requirement is only as much as we require at any given time. The capacity is almost swap, right? That's like excess. We need the exact minimum amount that I'm sending you in theory, right? So you kind of got your usage goes up without necessarily your capacity increasing. I mean, obviously early on, they're kind of pretty related, but right, we can use the Lightning Network a lot with only like $100 million. It's like, that's a lot of petty cash, right? So, it's the other number that's exciting when it goes up, right? Because that means more people care about privacy. It means more people are because, if other people care about privacy, it helps everyone else's privacy as well. So, it kind of lifts all the boats. It means, privacy is becoming more usable, becoming more accessible. So that number excites me more. But,
okay. I mean, he obviously, this is the first man that implemented Lightning, so don't listen to what Nico has to say. Listen to what he has to say. But I'm just looking at it.
Hold on a second, Rusty. I'd like to debate this a little.
Yeah.
No, man. I'll admit when I'm fucking wrong.
Pile on.
But yeah. I mean, look, it's counterintuitive, but I'm definitely going to trust what you have to say over, my dumbass. Anyways, check this out, Phil. I have some interesting data, and this is what we've been covering over past couple of days, right? This is a update, and when we played that Tucker Carlson clip for you guys a couple days ago where we actually mentioned Bitcoin by name, because Tucker even said how long is it going to be until they're going to go after Give Send Go. Give Send Go is the alternative to GoFundMe, right? GoFundMe essentially stole the funds from people sending donations to the truckers wanting freedom in Canada. Give Send Go stepped up to the plate, but like all centralized thing, to use Satoshi's own quote, the government is very good at metaphorically cutting off the head of centralized things, and that's exactly what happened here.
Give Send Go has stepped up and raised already more than $5 million for the truckers. How long till they try to shut that down too? Tallycoin, for example, is a small crowdfunding service that uses Bitcoin. It's not controlled by banks. That's the point. They're hosting a fundraiser for the truckers. Now, why is this appealing? No one can steal the money.
But you know what they couldn't freeze? Bitcoin, baby. And check this out. This keeps going up higher. Someone even donated 5 Bitcoin, right? Let's take a look at his message. The grasp of tyrants is waning. A new world is emerging. Love wins. We are immortal. Our story live forever. God bless you all. Freedom. And that was a donation of 5 Bitcoin. And for anyone that can't read the SAT translation, 2,147,000,000 sats is 21 Bitcoin, right? So absolutely awesome, bonkers. I don't know what that is in terms of Kaka fiat price. I'll do the calculation. But while I do the calculation, I'll pass it on to you guys. This is freedom winning. And this is exactly what Bitcoin was made for, right? It is the money of enemies. It is uncensorable money. Go pound sand, Ontario government. Go pound sand, world governments. Can't stop the signal. You're seeing the same thing in Afghanistan. You're seeing the same thing in Cuba. You're seeing the same thing in Nigeria. You're seeing the same thing in Venezuela. It's a little bit of a pattern there, don't you think, Phil?
You know what? Seeing that gives me goosebumps, and I just want to say I feel like it was 5 days ago or so that barely had 3 Bitcoin in it. So you can clearly see, right? You can clearly see there's a lot of support behind it. And unfortunately, something that we're also seeing is a lot of, controversial coverage of what's going on. And what's beautiful about Bitcoin, right, is that whether or not you agree with the truckers, okay, what we should all agree with is the fact that they should be allowed to solicit funds from their supporters, and not allowed, but empowered not to be stopped. Right? That they shouldn't be censored. And that really, to me, is the most beautiful thing about this whole thing. You see all of these corporations getting stopped out, right? Let's face it, they're being stopped out by the governments, and Bitcoin just lives freely. And this is exactly the way it's meant to be. Keep in mind, though, this is also the reason they're going to attempt to attack it even harder.
I mean,
so,
we've been
double-edged sword.
We've been on top of those articles, right, guys? So if you guys want to know what we're talking about, right, they're using, the racist narrative. They're using the climate narrative. We've been on top of all of those articles from last week. Check out those episodes. But anyways, Rusty, what are your thoughts about this historic moment going on in Canada and Bitcoin playing a major role?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I remember like one of my first donations that I ever gave was like to WikiLeaks, right? Back in the day, like you could give Bitcoin to WikiLeaks. But, I remember hesitating over the keyboard going, is this going to mark me forever, right? Like, you've got that moment of like, I'm doing something that's pretty counter narrative. And it started me on a path towards privacy, right? And this is why I feel it's really important that we get that story right. So people can just go, no, I'm going to give, and I don't have to think twice. Right. So behind the scenes here is as a dev, I'm sitting here going, okay, well, let's make sure our privacy story's together. Right. So that, we don't end up, you don't want to put yourself on a list because you donated like you did for like the Kickstarter or the GoFundMe. Right. So so that I think is important. But also this shows that, people are often prepared in the comfort of their own homes to make donations to causes that they might not want to put on their credit card. I think that's important too. Right. Mm-hmm. Particularly for things like this. So, I think it was inevitable that we would see Bitcoin used for this, because as you say, this is what it is for. And, it's great to see the Lightning story in there as well. Like a lot of these smaller donations are coming in over Lightning. I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but it's fantastic to see it out in the wild.
I was one of those people, and
Yeah.
I mine, right? So I'm a main chain guy. I don't mind paying the higher fees because I feel like I'm paying myself, right? But in this case, right, I had like $100 or something on the Mun wallet, and I sent it to Tally just to like at least experience Lightning and stuff. And it was so quack. It was so quack. It was so fast. It was such a good experience. And yeah, man. So guys, if you want to support freedom, you want to support, the fight against tyranny, definitely support the truckers. We will put the link we'll put the link to Tally down in the description. And of course, guys, there's a much bigger thing at stake here, right? Essentially what they're trying to do in Canada, what they're trying to do in Europe, right, is use the pandemic, right? Use the excuse of the pandemic to implement vaccine passports, and through those vaccine passports, eventually digital IDs. You're already starting to see news articles pop out here and there about this exact thing, and they're using, the current sickness as the excuse to implement those things, and they're all taking orders from Davos, Switzerland. So it's just absolutely crazy, and that's what those truckers are taking a stand against. They want freedom. So it's very, very important that we show solidarity. If you can't, donate, then at least just, tweet, right? In this information war that we're currently living for. That's a metaphorical bullet being fired against tyranny. But anyways, Phil, it's time for the Daily Fail.
Brought to you by Amber App. Check them out, amber.app. It is a Bitcoin stacking app by actual Bitcoiners. Low fees, fair spreads, smart automation. The link is down below.
Amber, the smart way to stack sats.
All right, guys, we've got 2 fails today. One of them is the typical rug pull fail, and the other one is just a giant disappointment fail. But let's dive into this right away. First one, Bunny and Qubit turns to Deo following $80 million bug exploit. The exploit took place on the Ethereum BSC bridge that saw the hacker use $185 million as collateral to steal $80 million worth of tokens from lending. That's the second time that we mentioned these bridges in the last week. Okay, these quote-unquote bridges. Anyways, the development team behind Bunny Finance and Qubit has decided to disband the protocol and turn it into a decentralized autonomous organization. So this is actually very interesting because back in 2017, when we would see, let's say, shitcoins such as, for example, BitConnect, all right, when you would see that thing, when it blew up, you know what they did at the end when it was completely worthless? They gave it back to the community. They said, here, it's now a community-driven project. Anyways, I find that I find that funny. Continuing on, the Bunny Finance team announced that the exploit on Qubit that resulted in $80 million worth of loss has made it impossible for the team to operate at full scale. Thus, it has decided to disband the protocols and give authority to the community. Of course. The hacker behind the attack managed to exploit a logical error in the X-Bridge smart contract that allowed them to withdraw tokens on BSC without depositing any Ethereum. Okay, so that's right. They got to print money out of thin air. Does that sound familiar? The hacker managed to steal 77,000 Qubit X ETH worth 185 million and used it as collateral to borrow several assets from the lending pools worth 80 million. And then, of course, what we reported on last week, the Wormhole token bridge loses 321 million in largest hack so far in 2022. So this was the second smart contract exploit on a token bridge in a week. Okay, that's right, people. We talked about this last week with the Wormhole token, which, like a wormhole, sucked everybody's money right out. All of that, quote unquote, total value locked, total value gone. It's gone. Well, now this week, we've got this Qubit Bunny Finance thing, and again, we've got the bridge. So let's backtrack, right? About 5 months ago, we were talking about liquidity pools being drained, right? It was specifically liquidity pools. You never even heard of these bridges. Now, all of a sudden, it's the bridge that leads to the liquidity pool where the attack is taking place. I just find this... To me, I find this absolutely hilarious because I almost feel as though they know about all these exploits and they're just kind of taking it apart piece by piece.
Dude, you got to give it to the shitcoiners of the names, bro. Great names, they're phenomenal with names. They're really good with the names. And while you were reading that article, I was imagining a bunny stealing some qubit, running through a wormhole, and somehow that's how he got away with everything. But yeah, dude, listen. They have to come up with these names to convince you to, give up your Bitcoin for their shitcoin. And then it's funny because when everything comes crashing down, then they hand you over the keys of the worthless garbage that they have. But anyways, Rusty, what are your thoughts on this steaming pile of dog shit?
Wow.
Sorry. Yeah. My correction. Bunny rabbit shit. Sorry.
Bunny shit. Okay. Yeah. So I look at this and I kind of go, well, if you have no idea what you're doing and you're completely, just following random stuff that you're told, and there's no way of validating or checking or any of this, then yeah, look, you're not only going into the casino and going, I think it's going to be black this time, but you're literally risking the whole casino collapses on you and you end up buried alive in the rubble. So, look, if that's your thing, like if that gets you somewhere, if you're happy with like this kind of like high risk gambling meme thing, hey, everyone needs a hobby, right? But I guess that's not what I do. I'm just so not in that world, right? I'm like, I'm interested in like making the world a better place. I'm interested in like freedom money, and I'm interested in kind of, technical stuff and trying to get things to work. And the idea of putting my money in anything that like is this like, but badly documented, right? So even if I wanted to, oh, cool, I want to do this thing, and I need to understand all these bits. Like, it's often like, well, there's someone's written this thing, and they've copied it from this other thing, and it's based on this other thing, and like, it's not really like, well, hell, there's $100 million in it, right? That's the only proof you have that it has anything. Only it doesn't anymore, right? So, you're not actually relying on being able to read the code or any kind of like peer review or any kind of seriousness. You're just looking at, sheer numbers, and, it evaporates so fast. Right?
But that's the thing, right? Like, even if it is audited and peer reviewed, they still get rug pulled.
Yeah, we've proven it.
The audits don't mean anything.
The audits are just part of the fun.
Yeah. So this is like the levels of mistrust involved as well. But audits could be like,
no, but there you said it. You said it right there. The levels of mistrust. There has to be trust, and that is the issue itself, right? That's the issue, that Bitcoin isn't completely trustless, but it tries to minimize trust as much as humanly possible, right? And again,
but that makes it much less suitable for gambling, right? I mean, if your whole goal is, I want to take some money, put it on some rando, and like see what happens, then if that's what excites you, then great. And there's obviously a whole market for that, but like, I'm happy to watch other people do it with their money.
You've been warned. Be careful about the bunnies going through wormholes. Anyways, Phil, what's the next fail?
All right, here we go. This one was extremely disappointing. 3, 2, 1. All right, this is a troll. Evan did a good job. Evan Kaludis, the head guy behind Zeus, right? Awesome Lightning dev, great guy. Posted this tweet. Good morning. We're pivoting to being a Solana first wallet. We'll keep Bitcoin and Lightning support for 6 months and then reevaluate based on demand. This is a troll, a very good troll, okay? And for the people who don't know what he's referring to, this is not a troll. This, sadly, is real. This is Light Night Games from Satoshi Games, and I, about 2 years ago, interviewed the head guy, Federico, from there, and Bitcoin only. And let's take a look at the tweet. 2022 is coming with exciting news for our play-to-earn community. We are moving to Solana. New redesigned NFT collection with play-to-earn functionality is landing very soon. New maps, game features, and much more is coming. A lot of disappointment, a lot of disappointed Bitcoiners. And anyways, we're going to have to dive into the hidden comments because that's where all of the comments are. Anyways, no, I'm kidding. There are some normal comments, but the majority of the comments from Bitcoiners are hidden. So let's dive into it. Here we go. An unplayable game goes to a centralized VC captured broken blockchain. I wish I can say it's been fun, but it hasn't. Good luck on the other side.
Uninstalled, reported, and blocked for shitcoinery.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so there's that one, right? Don't support that shit. Let's keep going. Unfollowed, Brecky, disappointed, blocked and reported for shitcoinery again. This you? We are Bitcoin only. Look at the dates, Bitcoin only. Oh yeah, no, there's the barfing faces, but hold on. This is and then we have our space cat, Hodlnot. He's asking to have his skin removed from the game. Please remove it. So, that was ultra disappointing at first. I really did think the original tweet was a troll. I knew that Evans was a troll, but I'm saying the original Satoshi Games one, I thought that was a troll. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized it's not. And I just, I understand that building on Bitcoin is more difficult because you can't print free money. And a lot of us have become addicted to the ability to receive free money for just having a good idea or something like that. But I think it really does show, and I know this is going to sound mean, but if the game was providing value, I think it would have been able to stay on Bitcoin. I'm not 100% convinced that because it couldn't survive on Bitcoin, that it's all of a sudden magically going to survive on a very niche intranet subsystem that is that shitcoin. So, anyways.
Dude, Solana Labs is savage, man. I've shown you the email that they sent me, right? And they essentially wanted BitVault to be associated with Solana Labs, and again, it's brand recognition, right? They're like, oh, if BitVault, and I don't even have that many followers on Twitter. I have like 14K, maybe, a small little fish, but it's like they're going towards everybody, right, to get that brand recognition, so to get more NPCs really to buy into their shitcoin, right? It's all about capturing the influencers, paying them a little bit under the table, right, to be associated with that shitcoin, so that noobs could buy their shitcoin and pump their bags while the VCs enrich themselves with Bitcoin, right? While they rack in that Bitcoin for themselves, So it's sad. Sold their soul. They're never gonna get that back. You ruin your reputation like this in this community, it's gone. And one last thing. This is a big lesson in Bitcoin. Don't have any heroes. Anyways, Rusty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is obviously a paid ad, right? So they've collected their money for, Solana would have paid pretty nicely for this. Will it save their platform? It gives them a cash injection, right? So maybe, but unless you've got it's really hard to write a compelling game, and I think that's part of the problem, right? If you have a compelling game that draws people in, then your community will grow, and if you don't, it won't. And I don't think maybe they didn't cross that bar, right? Just they didn't make it. And so, at some point you go, well, do we shut down? Do we take shitcoin money? And maybe you take shitcoin money. I probably wouldn't have, but I don't think it's going to save. I don't think in 6 months' time we're talking about either them pivoting back or
having the phone ring.
Yeah, thank you. Either them pivoting back or it's over, right? So
yeah. If they pivot back, they're fucked. Like this is over. Like once no, dude, Phil. Like once you cross that bridge, it's done.
So
it's over.
But they could jump to the next shitcoin, right? Just keep going. Right?
What's the next platform, right? What's the next Matic, right?
BSV.
That's another one that we've talked about.
BSV.
That's doing the same guard. BSV. That's right.
They gotta reach out to Craig.
Put everything on the base layer.
This is Satoshi Games after all. We have to go back to Satoshi.
so wait, I know that this is it's slightly off topic, but have you seen the CSW account back on Twitter?
Is it back?
Is that a real account or is that a random troll account?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I saw it a couple of days ago pop back, and it's like, and people are arguing with it. I even saw Arthur Van Pelt retweet it and like dismantle some tweet, about BSV, and I was like, well, if he's retweeting it, maybe it is actually him back. Anyways,
maybe. Anyways. Phil, it's time for the Daily Meme Review. Brought to you by Citadel 21. It's the best Bitcoin cultural zine. This is volume 9, volume 10. Every volume has different artwork by Bitcoiners. Check it out. It's stories, articles, comics by toxic Bitcoiners. You have to be quick, though. They only make 1,000 copies per volume. Get your prints of Citadel 21 today. All right, everybody. The first meme for today is brought to us by Pub Lord, host of the Toxic Happy Hour on Spaces. Definitely recommend. Today he was hosting a space. I joined in. Max Kaiser. We had Dr. Ross. Very cool. Oh, we had Tahini in there as well. Definitely check out the Toxic Happy Hour space. Anyways, every time the new monthly CPI numbers get released, say the line, Jerome, inflation is transitory. Everyone explodes in laughter. That is absolutely hilarious. This is, hey, Tallycoin, thanks for being there at the right time and getting it done. BTC Sessions, Greg Foss, you guys are rock stars. They really are. Humanity regaining its freedom, Tallycoin. We all are a bunch of nerds after all. Anyways, the Ottawa police confiscating firewood from Freedom Convoy protesters. This is why memes are so effective. What are you in for? I honked in Ottawa. Oh, hilarious. All right, next one. Those Bitcoiners are tainted. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin and slaps Robin in the face. Absolutely. It's deep. The last one's by Carl B. Menger. When you buy the Bitcoin dip and a big red candle follows the next day, law of nature, me buying the dip one day later, the middle finger. Absolutely incredible memes for today. Wow. I love the Canada ones, dude. I love the memes that have to do with the events that are taking place, right? And I think that really shows the significance of memes. Very effective at essentially showing a message very quickly without using words, right? It's just you completely understand it. It has humor. And again, in this information war that we're fighting right now, you know, the establishment trying to control the narrative, right? And then, you know, the independent part of the internet, you know, we're fighting. It's a tug and war game. Memes are the fucking artillery, right? And I'm so glad that we have the memesters, the meme lords, the professional meme lords on our side, on the side of Bitcoin. But anyways, Phil, for those memes, I'm going to give it a purple cable. But not only is it a purple cable, it's a USB-C to a micro USB. Yeah, and it's threaded, so you know you could do this with it. Yeah. What about you?
It's always very tricky. It's always very tricky with those ends, right? The micro USB, the mini USB, you know, and then you've got all the different letters.
I bought this one specifically for a single purpose. And it's a really good company too. Yeah, because no. For a thing to be plugged in, bro, and it's 6 inches. You know, you don't get these in 6 inches. You usually get
this
them
is true.
12 inches, and they're too long, right? So this one is for a single purpose. Anyways, Phil, what would you give those memes?
Has anyone ever said that? Yes. Okay, hold on. I will. I'm sorry. These are all terrible jokes. Terrible old dad jokes. Okay, so
that was a pretty good joke.
You think so?
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good joke.
Right.
That's what she said.
I like to, you know what? I like to help the humans. Okay, so for these memes, I am going to give it a very special score. I've been waiting on this one. Empty plastic bag.
Dude. Wow, you had to pull that out now? You're making my purple cable look bad, bro. Okay,
That's how I roll.
Anyways,
That's just how I roll.
Rusty, what would you give those memes?
The gold thread.
A gold thread! Woo!
Clearly.
Wow.
Peter Schiff use case right there. Gold thread.
That's right. Nothing says success on Twitter like the gold thread.
Like the gold thread. Wow. Purple cable, empty plastic dime bag. I wonder what was in there. And a gold thread. Anyways, guys, we want to know, do you agree with our scores? Do you disagree? Let us know down in the comment section. Make sure to subscribe to us on alternative video platforms because we do talk shit about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum, like Rumble.com and our personal favorite, BitcoinTV.com. They don't censor there because it's Bitcoin TV. And, of course, make sure to join our Telegram group. Link us some dank Bitcoin memes to review on the Bitcoin Meme Review. Because if you don't link them, then we have no memes to review, and it wouldn't be a Bitcoin meme review. I don't know what it would be. So make sure to join our fucking Telegram group. It's down in the link description. Join it right now. Anyways, Phil, it's time for Daily News. Brought to you by CryptoCloaks.com. They make the best 3D printed Bitcoin merch, like the famous Bitcoin 3D printed art sculpture. Opens up, you put your favorite hardware wallet in there. Also, you could get this in any custom color your heart desires. Good news, you can take advantage of the link down below for 5% off anything on the store, CryptoCloaks.com. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about a concept, right? This concept that if you hold on to fiat, it's not your money. The government doesn't see it as your money. In fact, the government sees it as their money. Only Bitcoin is your money, and let me make the case for you today, right? First, I'm going to backtrack. We're going to talk about this, right? This is the only funds that have not been able to be seized by the bureaucrats, right? Anyways, let's check out this article. Spurning demands by the Taliban, Biden moves to split $7 billion in frozen Afghan funds. President Biden is starting to clear a legal path for relatives of victims of the September 11th, 2001 attacks to pursue $3.5 billion that the Afghanistan Central Bank had deposited in New York before the Taliban takeover. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The United States is stealing $3.5 billion from the Afghani people just like that. So were those dollars ever, did they ever belong to the people of Afghanistan? No, they belonged to the people in Afghanistan as long as it was the correct government in place. We saw the UK government do the same thing with Venezuela's gold, right? We're not going to give Nicolas Maduro back his gold because it's not a government that we agree with. And why is this happening? Because again, the gold was stored in the UK. These dollars were stored in New York. For anyone that doesn't know, if you have dollars in your account, if a country has dollars, what they do is they have an account with the Federal Reserve in New York. So if Brazil is holding US dollars, they're actually in New York, right? And that gives the United States tremendous amount of leverage and power. Now, the 2001 attacks were horrific, right? They were terrible. They were one of the worst terrorist attacks in U.S. history. But my question is, why weren't those $3.5 billion given out the 20 years that the United States was in Afghanistan? This is an excuse. This is an excuse to cover up the fucked up part. Anyways, beginning that process, Mr. Biden issued an executive order Friday morning, invoking emergency powers to consolidate and freeze all $7 billion of the total assets the Afghan central bank kept in New York. Every single country keeps their dollar assets in New York, in the Federal Reserve. Think about how much power that gives the United States government. That's why you have Russia and China dealing in euros to close those deals. When the United States does these sanctions, when they freeze these accounts, they would like you to know that they're hurting the governments. But the collateral damage is the millions upon millions of people in those countries that no longer have access to the legacy financial system. They could no longer receive money from abroad. This means that if you're in Venezuela, you're in trouble. If you're in Cuba, you're in trouble. Anyways, I digress. The administration said it would ask a judge for permission to move $3.5 billion to a trust fund it would set up to support the needs of Afghan people, like for humanitarian aid. When the Afghan government dissolved in August, with top officials, including its president and the acting governor of its central bank, fleeing the country, it left behind slightly more than $7 billion in central bank assets on deposit at the Federal Reserve Bank in New York, because it was no longer clear who, if anyone, had legal authority to gain access to that account. The Fed made the funds unavailable for withdrawal. So did the Afghanistan government that the U.S. installed, was it ever really their money? No, it was their money under the conditions of you do what we want. Right? And the U.S. has been doing this to many, many other countries. And I'll get to why this is important. I want to focus on the collateral damage. I'm not interested in talking about the government of Cuba, the Taliban, because again, yes, those are evil governments. They do bad things. But when the U.S. does these sanctions, when they cut off these countries from the legacy financial system, they are hurting, starving millions of those citizens. Meanwhile, the economy in Afghanistan has been collapsing, leading to a mass starvation that is in turn creating an enormous and destabilizing new wave of refugees and raising a clear need for extensive spending on humanitarian aid and relief. Okay, how about instead of spending on humanitarian relief, you just allow people to receive funds? No, but they can't do that. They can't do that, because that would mean giving up control. So let's talk about the collateral damage, shall we? We've referred to this article many times before in the past. Starving Afghans use crypto, Bitcoin, and shitcoins to sidestep U.S. sanctions, failing banks, and the Taliban. I want you to focus on that. Bitcoin and specifically Tether, which I'll get to in a second, is allowing people to completely circumvent all of the political bullshit, and it allows people to receive money directly so they don't starve to death. Anyway, so remember, if anyone is against Bitcoin, Elizabeth Warren, I'm talking about you. Hillary Clinton, I'm talking about you. This is what you're advocating for. If you are against Bitcoin, you are against freedom. You are against people, innocent people, being able to feed their families. And the reason that they're okay with this is because governments they fundamentally believe that the money of their citizens belongs to them. And in a world of fiat, that is the truth. In a world of Bitcoin, it is no longer the truth. It's the citizens that have the power. Anyways, the article goes on to say the biggest risk for furloughed student wasn't lack of education, it was hunger. Furlough looked for a way to provide emergency checks to the woman, but was stymied by banks that don't want to risk violating severe U.S. sanctions. So the U.S. would rather want Afghanis to starve. Remember all the moral virtue that they take, right? Than, fucking look bad. I don't even know what to say. JP Morgan Chase repeatedly blocked her attempts to transfer money, she said, and she grew increasingly alarmed by students who said they couldn't access cash at local Afghan banks, many of which have closed or imposed strict withdrawal limits. In response, she turned to Bitcoin and shitcoins to provide monthly emergency payments to help students afford enough food to survive. This is why apolitical money is important. Anyways, I digress. Afghans fleeing the Taliban can take their assets with them without risk, which is what I always say on this show. Bitcoin gives you the power to not only vote with your wallet, but also your feet. Imagine all the Jews that would have been saved during the Holocaust if they were able to take their money with them. Memorize a 12-word seed phrase, and you could cross the border with millions, if not billions, if not trillions of dollars in your mind. That is how powerful that is. Humanitarian agencies seeking to bypass banks and discreetly avoid the Taliban can provide cash directly to those in need. Smugglers and intermediaries who may steal or try to resell aid packages can be circumvented if aid is given directly through a digital transaction, of which only Bitcoin can provide. We can't get money through banks, but 88% of Afghan families have at least one smartphone, said Kakar, who hopes to facilitate money transfers of Afghanis along with USDC, another stablecoin. I'll get to why the USDC is a temporary measure. I'll get to that in a second. He is in the process of setting up money exchange shops at which Afghans could obtain QR codes and trade crypto for hard money. You could trade back and forth, send it overseas, or receive it overseas without ever touching banks, without touching the Afghan government or Taliban. I'm going to add in there, and the US government as well. That's how powerful it is. Now, why did I bring up the Tether part? Right now, because Tether is centralized, the U.S. government is going after it, right? We saw an executive order from Joe Biden essentially wanting to regulate stable coins like banks. So eventually, this loophole that they're currently using is not going to be available in 5 to 10 years. The only currency that is apolitical, that is censorship resistant, that's not going to be able to be compromised by a government is Bitcoin. But this is a peek into the future. Bitcoin provides hope when there is none. And let me give you another example of what governments believe they could do with your money. Because remember this, guys, fiat money, they fundamentally believe they own it. They might let you borrow it, but they own it. Let me give you an example. This is Lebanon. Lebanon plans 93% currency slide turns bulk of FX deposits to pounds. FX means foreign currencies. A government plan, and Lebanon was experiencing hyperinflation, tremendous amounts of inflation. And I want to use this article as an example of how governments view their citizens, right? We went through the New York Times article. This is what, the U.S. government sees of Afghanistan. This is the Afghans' money, but no, we freeze it. This is our money now, right? Even if, it potentially starves Afghani citizens, it doesn't matter, right? Bitcoin provides hope to all these people. Bitcoin also provides hope to people in Lebanon. Let's check out this article. A government plan for tackling Lebanon's financial crisis projects a 93% devaluation of the Lebanese pounds and converts the bulk of hard currency deposits in the banking system to local currency. Of 104 billion US dollars of hard currency deposit, the plan foresees returning just $25 billion to savers in US dollars, which means 75% of the deposits would be wiped out. So if you had money in a Lebanese bank, right, they would only give you 25% of the value back. The plan sets a 15-year time frame for paying back all depositors. Depositors have been largely frozen out. What does that sound like to you? Very similar to Afghanistan, right? Largely frozen out of US dollar accounts since 2019, during which the time the pound has lost more than 90% of its value. So the bank literally held that money hostage, forcing people to hold on to it while the local currency in Lebanon lost 90%. That sounds like a shitcoin. Anyways, the article goes on to say this time the losses are divided out as follows: 38 billion by depositors, 13 billion through a reduction in the capital of banks, shareholders, 10 billion in government perpetual bonds, and 8 billion by the central bank. So the central bank only has to pay 8 billion, right? They take a haircut of 8 billion, but the depositors are the ones that are actually footing the goddamn bill. And why is this happening? Because other people are holding on to your money. And if you think this is only a problem in Afghanistan, and if you think this is only a problem in Lebanon, and if you think this is only a problem in third world countries, you'd be wrong. Check out this paper. Came out in 2015. It's called it's by the IMF, The Liquidation of Government Debt, right? Here's a tweet by Alex Gladstein. Here's an IMF paper recommending that governments consider financial repression, looting public savings by pinning interest rates below inflation as a tool for reducing national debt in, check this out, advanced economies. This is a sickness. Governments around the world feel entitled to debase and steal from their populace if it ensures their survival. Only Bitcoin fixes this. Opt out of this fucking madness. This is evil. Anyways, let's check out what the IMF has to say, or what the paper had to say. High public debt often produces the drama of default and restructuring, but debt is also reduced through financial repression, a tax holder on bondholders and savers via negative or below market real interest rates. After World War II, capital controls and regulatory restrictions created a captive audience for government debt, limiting tax base erosion. Think about how up what it is they're saying. Financial repression is most successful in liquidating debt when accompanied by inflation. For the advanced economies, real interest rates were negative a half of the time during 1945 and 1980. Average annual interest expense savings for a 12-country sample ranged from about 1 to 5% of GDP for the full 1945 to 1980 period. We suggest that once again, financial repression may be a part of the toolkit deployed to cope with the most recent surge in public debt in advanced economies. So for the fucking debt that governments accumulate themselves, it's literally there in their paper. They're advocating to steal from the fucking populace for their overspending. This is the fucking insanity of the fiat system. You want to talk about all the unrest, all the wealth inequality in the world? It is their fucking fault. They are stealing from you. That is what fiat enables. And the only way you protect yourself from this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is giving hope to Afghanis, to Nigerians, to Venezuelans, to Turks. It's helping people protect themselves from the theft of inflation that is coming from their own fucking governments. And their governments, guys, it's for the public good. No, it's for the public. It's for the good of the bureaucrats and the bureaucrats alone. This is fucking utter bullshit. This is bullshit. And we will win this because Bitcoin is a better money. It's a money that represents freedom. Look at what's happening in Canada. They would want you to live in a system where they could freeze the funds. I thought this was an open society. I thought Canada was an open society. No. Apparently, if it's not, a Black Lives Matter protest, no, those protests aren't allowed. We have to freeze the funds, take it in ourselves. Let's, and redistribute it amongst the bureaucrats. This is an injustice that only Bitcoin could solve. and only if you take self-custody. Take self-custody. Take the power back from these goddamn parasites. Phil?
Oh my gosh, man! You just gave me so much to unwrap there. I was just writing something down so I didn't forget it. On your last point, okay, the brilliant, by the way, pulling all of that information together to paint that story. I mean, that is just absolutely evil. You know, never forget, right, that only approved protests don't get shut down by the system, and we can see that in plain daylight, right? We all saw what happened, right? We all saw what happened with the protests, right? With BLM and all that. And we see what's happening in Canada with the truckers. And we can see that when the funding doesn't come from the correct parties or from the correct people, that there's heightened opposition. And of course, the media the corporate-owned media goes against them. Okay? But I just want to go back to something that you said all the way at the beginning, and that is that the government knows that fiat is not your money, right? And this is the story, this is the theme throughout everything that you showed. In every one of those cases, what they're doing is that they're like literally they're power checking you all along the way. Like that's what's happening. You're always reminded that you are asking for permission. And something that I always think of is we gave up our time. We gave that time up. There were no strings attached to it except that it was going to be traded for value in kind. And then the monetary policy steals from that value. It breaks that contract at its core.
Dude, it's hardwired.
People really need to think about that.
It's hardwired in, bro. It's
Yeah.
hardwired in, and we've been manipulated to think. And I really recommend reading in Jeff Booth's book, right? The Price of Tomorrow. We've been manipulated to think as a society that inflation is necessary. No, inflation, dude, is literally the root of all evil. It's allowed wars. It's allowed governments to literally steal from their populace to pay for whatever fucking concoction those planners want to come up with. And it's fucked up, bro.
Who does it benefit the most? Who does it benefit the most, right? Because you even just said it, right?
The state and the elites.
We are convinced, right? So there you go. It's like when somebody tells us information, we always have to ask ourselves, why are we being told this? Who stands to profit from this? And this is exactly it, right? This idea that inflation is okay and that this monetary theft is okay is because the people that control the means and the groups of people that control the means are the ones that stand to benefit the most from the whole population believing in this ridiculous idea of theft at its root. And
Dude.
I just wanted to finish by saying it is kind of strange though that it seems that government incompetence is pushing Bitcoin adoption. Like you can see, like, isn't it? I mean, don't get me wrong, but like
keep going, keep freezing accounts.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, are you guys serious? Like, so you freeze GoFundMe and then you freeze Go Give. What are they called? Give,
Send, Go. Give, Send, Go.
Give, Send, Go. Boom. Now they're gone. Like, it's like the more they keep doing, all they're doing is amplifying our signals. So hat tip to you. Show everyone what your true colors are, because it's going to stand in glaring contrast against Bitcoin's qualities.
Dude, it's absurd how entitled these politicians
They're
are
nuts.
to other people's money, bro. That, like, it's like Joe Biden is saying, yeah, let's freeze this money that belongs to the Afghan people, right? Under the guise that, oh, it could go to the Taliban, right? Let's freeze that fucking money, right? Let's freeze, in Lebanon. Let's take a fucking 90% haircut off people's. We had Ali from Tahiti's on yesterday. He talked about how his dad spent 30 years working in Egypt and he lost 60 to 70% of his savings. That is absurd. That is unjust. That is not right. That is fucking evil. And where does that money go to? It goes to the parasites. It goes to the politicians themselves.
Goes to the people who work the least for it.
It's crazy. It's absurd, dude. And Afghanistan, again, right? Cut off Western Union, cut off Chase, you know who doesn't care? Bitcoin. Yep. Bitcoin is providing hope. For now, it's stable coins because it gives the false illusion that they have a decentralized whatever. But as governments start cracking down, as they start losing more and more power, as the fiat money printer power weakens towards Bitcoin, right? You know, they're gonna start going after the lowest hanging fruit, like DeFi, like the centralized shitcoins, including the stable coins themselves too, right? So again, you know, this is the fight for our lives, bro. I like, dude, I don't think humanity will ever be free until we separate money from state. It needs to happen. This is not right, dude. Millions of people literally at the whim of a person that won a popularity contest has their money completely taken away from them. What the fuck is that about, bro? That is so fucked up on so many levels, and that is what we're fighting for.
And you see how they justify it, right? Oh, we're fighting terrorism. Oh, you know, we're fighting the drug war.
Oh no, they can't even hide behind that, Phil. Yesterday they released if you're misinformation, you might be a domestic terror. Like, dude.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Or on the last heels, man. Like, they're bullshit. No one believes them anymore. That's why they're trying to censor Joe Rogan. This is crazy. This is an insane fourth turning. Guys, if a lot of this stuff alarms you like it should, protect yourself the way that you protect yourself. Buy yourself some Bitcoin. Put it into self-custody. Do not put it into a custodian. If you put it into a custodian, it's the same as having your money in a bank. And I just gave you a bunch of examples as to why you should not have your money in a bank. So yeah, man. But anyways, Phil, there was an open source software release today. Why do you tell everybody about it?
Software releases. Brought to you by CipherSafe. Check them out, cyphersafe.io. It's the best place to store your Bitcoin seed. Check out the Cypher Wheel, or in the all-new Cypher Grid, comes complete with punch tool and tamper-resistant wire. We've got Whirlpool version 0.10.13 that was released. It is down below in the show notes. All right. Monday through Saturday, we drop episodes rain or shine unless we tell you different. Don't forget to check out our audio-only episodes that we drop along with our live episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. All right, guys, that was our show. Before we go, I'm going to give a very special shout-out to our awesome guests. You can go give them a follow at Rusty_Twit. He is one of the OG Lightning developers. Anyways, guys, if you like the show, you know what to do. Smash that like button. And of course, if you want to continue hearing the Bitcoin news from the plebe perspective and the catastrophic fails from these parasitic bureaucrats, definitely consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you Monday, guys, for a brand new episode.
Government incompetence is pushing Bitcoin adoption.